terms of, you just mentioned that sometimes being the only black woman in a space, being the only Muslim, then being the only Muslim woman in hijab, that these are challenges to your faith. What do you do? What are your iman boosters? What do you do to connect and just have high spirituality enough to, especially to keep going and to be successful?
I mean, from the time I was very young, I just remember always being in a space when I was different from everyone else. And again, growing up in an environment where I feel like Maple was kind of a bubble because I was around the same kids for such a long time. I'll never forget the first time when I was on the fencing team. I joined the fencing team at 13 when I was in high school. And fencing's a very white sport, not a lot of black folks.
We'll get to that.
Right? But I get to a fencing competition and I feel like people were staring at me. Even when I played volleyball, it was bizarre for kids from certain towns that don't have any minorities. Like sometimes that was their first interaction or their first sighting of a Muslim. So I think even as a kid, and we don't think about this a lot when we think of our youth, but it can be like a very heavy burden to carry, I think, as a child, to be singled out for being different when really you're just, appearing as yourself. And I realized at a young age that my skin color and my religion had the power to affect how people treated me. And I think that it takes a lot of self-reflection and a lot of thought into realizing that you can't allow that to control who you are and dictate who you are. It takes a lot of strength, I think, to realize that you have to be stronger than that in order to be yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for just even being that face for all of us, so that when our daughters turn on the TV, they don't feel alone anymore, right? They do feel represented from a very large position. Because we didn't have those models to say, and now they say, not only is she on TV, y'all, she is a Barbie. I know my daughter would definitely be one who's like, see, Mom, I can have one now. I can have a Barbie.
I have friends that call me Barbs. I'm like, no.
Ibtihaj it is. And Miss Muhammad, if you ain't. Janet moment for those of you who remember. That speaks of my age, I guess.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Yes. Okay. You know what? I have to say this. There is something amazing about being with women of color in the same room. There's so much love and like family reunion. You're like, I'm at home, y'all. Shout it out. Love y'all. Okay, so I want to go back to the moment when you're saying, I'm 13 years old. I read this story about you some years back where your mom was actually driving past a high school and she saw someone in there who was, I guess, practicing fencing, and because they were all covered, she was like, I don't know what they're doing, but I know that's what you're going to do next. So tell us about that. How did you decide, or was it, pushed from your mom to become a fencer? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so as African Americans, we know that sports are a very, I would say, a central part of our family dynamic, whether you're participating in sport, being active, like spending all day outside until the streetlights come on, or spending your Sundays watching football as a family. And our family was no different. We weren't given the choice in whether or not we would play sport, but rather which sports we would play. So my mom would put like the recreation book in front of us, and we could pick what sport we could try when we were really young. I have a brother who's 18 months older than me, and my dad would put us in the pool and be like, race your brother. And I was, trying to run faster than him, jump higher than him, and like he's older, he's taller, he's bigger. I never ever beat him, I don't think, but that didn't stop me from trying, and I think that kind of instilled this competitive edge in me. But I think the way my parents approached it was they didn't differentiate between us as boys and girls growing up. They encouraged us to be active and to really push ourselves athletically. And also, as Muslim parents, they saw the benefit in having us involved in sport. So they knew where we were from 3 to 5 every day after school. There was no getting lost because you had to be at practice. And I really think that was the reason why we all played sports. So why fencing? At 12 years old, my mom and I, driving past a local high school, Columbia High School in New Jersey, the cafeteria has these big picture windows, and we were literally parked at a stoplight, or stopped at a stoplight, and we saw athletes inside in all white, and they were hitting each other with swords, and we thought they were wearing helmets, and Mom's like, I don't know what it is, but she wanted me to try it because they were fully covered. That was literally our only interest. My mom found, for real, that was this. Yeah.
Orca in sports, you're doing it.
Yeah. So my mom, being very resourceful, wanting me to be active, but also seeing me as a kid struggle to constantly find uniforms that fit. Like, we spent a lot of time in Modell's and different sporting goods stores trying to find long sleeves and spandex to go underneath our track shorts and stuff like that. And I feel like the kids today will never know the struggle, like, just yesterday for me, but, right? Well, literally we'll never know the struggle of trying to find something that wasn't super hot to work in. The fact that there are sports hijabs, I'm like, you have no idea how lucky you are, right? There was such a struggle growing up. I remember going to team practices and just feeling out of place because I was always out of uniform. I never looked like my teammates. And in fencing, it was just kind of this breath of fresh air because, and I always say that I didn't find fencing, but fencing found me because it allowed me to pursue my desire to be active as a kid, but also didn't compromise, my religious beliefs. They just kind of worked simultaneously in a way. And I don't know if I've ever loved fencing, but I've always loved the people of the sport. Like my high school team, not a ton of minorities on the team, but for whatever reason, maybe it's because it was just like the state championship program. And it's easy to be happy when you're winning, right? We didn't have very many moments of where we lost, but there's like 80 or 90 high schools that have fencing teams in New Jersey. It's like very, very competitive. And it's this really strong program in Maplewood.